Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really profound perspective that's going to completely reframe how we look at our deepest personal hardships and setbacks. Let's get right into it.
You know that feeling where you do absolutely everything right and somehow the whole thing just falls apart anyway? Yeah, we've all been there. The material we're examining today tackles this deeply frustrating human experience head-on, and it offers a radically different lens through which to view our absolute hardest seasons. Okay, let's dive into this. The source material hits us right away with this super provocative thought. Sometimes God will destroy your plans not to hurt you, but to protect you. It suggests that what we often perceive as a totally devastating loss might actually be a deliberate, protective intervention. It's a fascinating idea, right? Because it completely challenges our immediate emotional reactions to failure.
Moving right into Section 1, the purpose behind pain, the catalyst of breaking.
So when sudden destruction hits our lives, it's incredibly natural to internalize it as a punishment. But this framework reorients that perspective entirely. It argues that pain isn't punishment, it's preparation. Think of it like a diamond. It literally requires immense pressure to form. In the same way, this breaking process is viewed as a totally necessary mechanism to build a much stronger foundation for your life. But why do our plans actually shatter in the first place? Well, the source points out a few classic traps. Often, we're chasing unreciprocated love, building our lives on false grounds, depending on people who don't actually support us, or simply walking into places we really don't belong. When these paths are abruptly blocked, a compelling case is made that this isn't a denial of your happiness, it's a rescue. You're basically being saved from a future disaster that you just couldn't see coming.
So the crucial point here is redefining what it means to surrender. Because usually we hear surrender and think defeat, right? But not here. It's completely separated from giving up. Instead, it's defined as the active, conscious choice of letting go of your own expectations, your need for absolute control, and your rigid timelines so you can fully trust an unseen process.
Next up, Section 2, protection in unanswered prayers, the power of the unseen.
Now this is arguably one of the toughest concepts to grasp when you're in the middle of a struggle. It's so common to view unanswered prayers as a massive failure or proof that you've just been abandoned. But the source presents this fascinating paradox, unanswered prayers as protection. It claims that a closed door, or even a long period of frustrating silence, might actually be a divine rescue, sparing you from a situation that would have ultimately cost you your peace. To really visualize this, the source uses this brilliant metaphor of a tree growing its roots deep into the dark earth. As you know, the most powerful growth always happens underground, where absolutely no one can see it. For weeks or even months, it looks like nothing is happening on the surface. But without those deep roots being built in the silent dark, the tree would just collapse under its own weight the moment any visible success arrives.
And this brilliantly illustrates the profound difference between what we usually want and what we actually need. We are constantly asking to change our situation, right? Just fix our shallow external circumstances. But the higher goal presented here is to change our soul. The waiting, the failure, and the confusion are all framed as deliberate preparation designed for deep internal transformation, not just a quick fix to our immediate surroundings.
Which brings us to Section 3, the power of silence, the anchor and the storm.
To vividly illustrate what mature trust literally looks like in practice, the material shares a really gripping narrative. Picture this: a violent ocean storm threatens a ship, panicking everyone on board, except for one incredibly calm naval officer. His wife is absolutely terrified. She's wondering how her husband can remain so still while these massive waves are towering over the ship and lightning is tearing the pitch-black sky apart.
Then, the story takes a super dramatic and tense turn. To prove a fundamental point about fear and trust, the calm sailor draws his deadly sword. He places the sharp blade directly against his terrified wife's neck and gently asks her, "Are you afraid now?" Her response is the profound realization that basically anchors this entire philosophy. She says, "I know this sword is deadly, but I also know your heart. You would never hurt me." She looks completely past the terrifying, deadly object right in front of her and relies entirely on her intrinsic trust of the person holding it.
Now, what's really fascinating is how this redefines faith. It is not this naive expectation of a perfectly sunny, storm-free life. Instead, faith is defined as the presence of deep peace inside the storm, rooted in complete trust. The sailor's story demonstrates that true peace comes from trusting the ultimate intentions behind the storm, knowing they are for your good, even when your immediate circumstances look incredibly dark.
All right, let's bring it all together in Section 4, 4 Truths to Move Forward, the action of surrender.
The best part is this framework doesn't just leave us hanging with abstract philosophy, it gives us 4 definitive commands to actually carry forward. Step 1. Stop fighting your past. Just let it go. It's already done and cannot be fixed. Step 2. Focus on the work, not the outcome. Put your energy into your daily duty and stay faithful to the task instead of obsessing over the final result. Step 3. Surrender your future. Since it's entirely uncertain anyway, worrying about it is just a drain on your soul's energy. And finally, Step 4. Celebrate the divine rescue. When a plan breaks, don't cry over it. Recognize it as a protective intervention that's saving you from unseen harm.
Let's see how all of this builds to one ultimate choice. Because when life inevitably breaks you, the source says there are 2 distinct paths you can take. You can become bitter, or you can become blessed. Pain is either going to harden your heart, or it's going to open your spirit. Choosing the latter means accepting that surviving the fire isn't meant to destroy you, it's actually rebuilding you with much stronger materials. Things like patience, vision, and discernment.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer today. I really want to leave you chewing on this final, highly provocative question. Are you ready to trust the hands behind the process? It's a heavy question for sure, and it demands some deep reflection on everything we've covered. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredibly thought-provoking material. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.